Huh. How did this get here? Well, I did just read the first one, and it was fun. Oh, what the heck. Eldest graced the shelves in 2005. I actually remember seeing this book advertised in my school library when I was a kid. Now, this book starts a trend that we're going to be seeing throughout the rest of the series. Eragon is the only book in the series to solely focus on one character, Eragon. The rest of the series splits into various third-person perspectives. In Eldest, there are only 3 separate perspectives. Of course, there's Eragon's perspective, then there's Roran's perspective, and finally we get a few brief moments from Nasuada's perspective. Why Nasuada? Why Roran? Well, you'll see in just a moment. Eldest picks up 3 days after the Battle of Varden. Things are starting to calm down a bit until ambush! Urgles have attacked once again, and this time, they successfully kill Ajihad and carry off Murtag and the twins. Murtag and the twins are presumed dead. Ajihad dies, telling Eragon to promise him to keep the Varden from falling into chaos. The Council of Elders who help run the Varden get together and vote Nasuada to be the leader of the Varden. However, they seem to only want Nasuada to lead so they can control her. But it seems Nasuada is smarter than she appears. While she is young and appears inexperienced, Ajihad had been preparing her for this for years. The Council of Elders actually wanted Eragon to pledge fealty to the Varden so that they may control him, because while they did promise to send Eragon to do Weldenvarden to train with the elves, they still want him to be at their beck and call. However, Eragon and Nasuada have already planned to have him publicly pledge fealty to her. Since Nasuada understands the importance of Eragon's training, she knows not to call him unless absolutely necessary. So that's done. Eragon and Saphira later meet up with King Hrothgar of the Dwarves. Hrothgar adopts Eragon into his clan. He also intends to have Oric accompany Eragon and Saphira to do Weldenvarden to oversee his training. Now, Eragon, Saphira, Arya, and Oric set out for Weldenvarden. The journey is tough at first due to some dwarves disapproving of Eragon's new status among them, but several dwarves loyal to Hrothgar and the Varden join them to help escort them to the forest. When they make it to Elismira, in the heart of Weldenvarden, they meet Arya's mother, Queen Islanzadi. She later leads them to Oramis, an elven rider, and his dragon, Glader. Oramis was the one who contacted Eragon and saved him from Durza's dark magic. Eragon and Saphira train with them both. However, this training does not come easy since Eragon has been prone to seizures due to Durza wounding his back during the last battle. It also doesn't help that Eragon has been trying to hit on Arya. Because of this, Arya has become distant. Saphira has also been trying to hit on Glader, but he turned her down. During the Blood Oath celebration, the dragons gift Eragon new abilities which turn him into an elf-human hybrid. He now has some of the skills of the elves and nearly looks like one. However, during the celebration, he tries to pursue Arya again, but she rejects him and leaves to rejoin the Varden. Now, during most of Eragon's stay in Elismira, he learns a lot about magic and a lot of history and stories. He even gets to meet Roran, the smith who forges the swords of the riders. Keep this in mind for later, we'll come back to her. Anyway, let's see how Roran's doing. Well, he wasn't too happy to come home and find out his father was killed and Eragon left with Brom and his farm was destroyed. Even the letter that Brom left behind wasn't helping. But anyway, Roran still wants to get married to Katrina, but there's one problem. Sloane, Katrina's father. Roran has been doing his best to try to get Sloane's approval, which is why he left for Therinsford to get enough money to build his own house. But now he has no land. What is he to do? Well, he can't dwell on that right now because the Razak and many of Galbatorix's soldiers have stopped by. They intend to pick up Roran and find out more about Eragon. But Roran fights back with his mighty hammer! The Razak and the soldiers leave, but they'll be back. Everyone in Carvahall sets up defenses around the city. Now, during this time, Roran has already planned to help evacuate many of the women and children into the Spine. Of course, there are many who don't dare go there due to many not returning, especially Sloane since his wife died there. However, the villagers know that they aren't safe here. Roran convinces Katrina to go with them, but Sloane catches her about to leave. It's at this moment where Katrina chooses Roran over her father. Sloane is royally mad. Now, after a second invasion, Katrina stays with Roran over at Horst's house. And well, it seems the Razak have been tipped off because they kidnapped Katrina from the house while they're sleeping. Roran gets some others to help him chase after them, but they can't invade yet due to the vast number of soldiers. As they watch the enemy camp, that's where they find out that Sloane was the one who let the Razak in. The Razak fly away with Sloane and Katrina in tow. Roran doesn't want to sit around and do nothing, so he rallies the villagers to join him in fleeing to Serta to join the Varden. The villagers in Roran manage to get a hold of some barges in Narda, where they then travel to Tyrm. There, Roran meets Jode, who tells him about Eragon and what he's been doing. Jode also helps Roran steal a ship for the villagers. While they were getting chased down on their way to Serta, they do manage to escape and make it to Serta by going past a massive whirlpool known as the Boar's Eye. Now let's see what Nasuada is up to. She moves the entire Varden from Varden to Serta. Serta's king Orin takes them in. But there is a small problem. Finances. In order to gain some money, Nasuada recruits the magicians of the Varden to make cheap lace and sell it throughout Serta and the Empire. During this time, we also find out what happened to the baby that Eragon blessed earlier. Because Eragon didn't say the blessing in the grammatically correct form of the ancient language, he accidentally cursed the baby to be a shield to all those who are in pain and suffering. She now appears as a 3-year-old child and goes by the name Elva. Elva actually saves Nasuada from an assassin working for the Black Hand. She foresaw the attack and got Nasuada out of the way just in time. Nasuada also learns that Galbatorix is putting together a massive army and sends word to the dwarves in Eragon. Let's go back to Eragon for now. So, Eragon scryed Nasuada to make sure everything was okay after having a dream about the coming battle. He realizes what was going on and decides to put his trading on hold while he goes to Serta with Auric to help with the battle. Before he leaves, Oramis gives Eragon some gifts to help him in the battle, but he has Eragon and Saphira promise to come back and finish their training. Eragon, Saphira, and Auric make it to Serta. Eragon meets Elva and promises to rid her of her curse, but she insists he do it after the battle is over. An army of Urgals later joined the Varden, since many of them were under Durza's control and had recently been freed. And they didn't really like being controlled like that. The battle begins, and things aren't looking so great for the Varden until Roran and the dwarves arrive and start to help out. However, a new dragon rider appears and kills King Hrothgar. It seems Galbatorix got another of his dragon eggs to hatch. Eragon challenges this new rider and finds out they are evenly matched. Eragon unmasks him, revealing the new rider to be Murtagh. Murtagh reveals that the twins had betrayed the Varden and took him back to Galbatorix. Then, the red dragon Thorn hatched for Murtagh. Galbatorix forced both of them to obey him and granted them powers that Eragon doesn't understand. Galbatorix knows their true names. There is nothing Eragon can do to bring Murtagh back to the Varden. Roran kills the twins, and Murtagh fights Eragon with magic. Murtagh wins due to all that power. He takes Zarok from Eragon and reveals to him that he's Eragon's brother. Morzin, first and last of the Forsworn, and one of Galbatorix's best friends, is Eragon's father. Murtagh and Thorn leave due to a loophole in what he promised Galbatorix. The Varden win the battle overall, but Eragon feels like he lost. He tells Nasuada, Arya, and Roran what Murtagh told him. All of them reassure him that he's not his father, nor his brother. The story ends with Eragon agreeing to help Roran track down the Razak and save Katrina. The first thing I want to go over in this analysis is the abundance of world building. See, in the last book we got a nice foundation of Alagasia and some of its residents, along with part of the history of the riders. Eldest throws in some more world building. Now, it may be a bit much compared to other works, but it does help in the foreshadowing department and provides context for stuff that happens later in the series. Part of that world building ties into a few religious themes. Here, Eragon learns a lot about the cultures and beliefs of elves, dwarves, and even Urgals. It also shows the reader that there's not a designated evil race in this world. Okay, well, maybe except the Razak. There's a valid reason the elves had to wipe them all out, and it wasn't pretty. But still, you see my point. Of course, you already saw the themes of family. Eragon found out Murtagh is his brother, and Morzin is his father. While that did shatter him at first, he realizes that Garrow, Brom, and Oramis were more of a father to him than Morzin ever will be. He even insists that Roran call Garrow their father. The two also consider themselves brothers now. This is a common theme seen in many stories throughout the years, but it's always nice to see again. And while I will be mentioning this again when we get to Inheritance, Eldest goes over the trials of war. Eragon at this point has learned to reach into the minds of every living thing in an area. He can feel what they're feeling. This is why it must have been difficult for him to fight in battle. War causes all kinds of suffering. Roran starts to feel a similar way after having killed some soldiers and later seeing Clovis say goodbye to his wife and daughter. Oramis even asks Eragon why he's even bothering to fight Galbatorix if it causes more suffering. Eragon eventually says that because Galbatorix had been causing suffering for centuries, he needed to stop it. War is never pretty. And during Eragon and Saphira's training, they learn to always communicate with each other in everything. They teach each other their lessons. Even though Eragon won't be flying anytime soon, he understands why Saphira needs to know her lessons. And even though Saphira won't be fighting or reaching out to everything with her mind in order to understand them, she understands why Eragon needs to know his lessons. It helps the two grow closer and almost become of one mind. They're supposed to work together as a team. One cannot work alone. Overall, I did enjoy this book. Sure, it was pretty dense and there was more focus on the world building rather than the plot, but I found it fascinating. I actually like learning about the world and the story. It helps me understand the characters better and why they make the decisions they do. I would recommend this book for ages 16 and up. There's a lot more graphic violence, and there's also some mature moments that can get a bit graphic. Also, a younger reader might easily get bored by the excessive world building. Now, I do remember hearing that there was going to be a movie adaptation of Eldest, but due to the poor reception of the Eragon film, it was cancelled. It's for the best. While it was dense, I did enjoy reading this again. Although, I will admit, I'm a little worried about reading the rest of the series since the books seem to get bigger the farther you go along. Well, I'm sure the rest of the world building will be quite interesting. Besides, learning about dragons is awesome! Happy reading!